Today I'm going to start on the mast. Let me show you what I did. First, some planning.
So here we have the sail plan and the mast section. So I want to draw this into full scale, and each square here is 2.54 centimeters. The opening seems to be about 6 millimeters, and the center hole is about 16 millimeters. So the full length of the mast is 101 millimeters, and the full widest part of the mast is should be about 70 millimeters.
I transferred the measures from the blueprint to a millimeter paper. I start with the bottom section. This is the widest part of the mast, where I draw the mast in profile in full scale. The middle of the mast is a bit hollow to make the mast a bit lighter. I also draw the mast in a length profile. I want to make the mast dividable, as I don't want the mast to be too long to transport on the car rooftop. Making a mast dividable is of course more complicated and requires more stays. I mark out each 10% increment of the mast height. The load on the mast is not the same throughout the whole length of the mast. Therefore, the mast can be a bit narrower in the top and also in the bottom, as long as it's wide close where the boom is attached and also throughout the middle of the mast. Therefore, in order to make the mast a bit lighter, I reduce the width of the mast. At the dividing, the mast can be 92% of the mast base. The top section of the mast can be about 69% of the widest part of the mast. My intention is to make the mast straight in the back end, and have the scarfing in the front end of the mast. Now I have a profile of the base, the dividing and the top section of the mast. Now we can start the practical work. First I get some timber. Get out my sawhorses. My sail has a bolt rope. To attach the sail to the mast, I make a milling track. I smoothen the milling track. Mark the part that I don't need. And cut off that piece. Plan them to the required thickness. I mark how much I should take away. To make the mast strong, it's important that the part that you glue together are wide enough. And then I plan it down to the line. I mark how much to scarf off from the back end of the mast. I mark how much to scarf off from the side part of the mast. Now I have a rather wide surface to join the back end part of the mast with the side part of the mast. Cut out some more parts for the mast. Here I plan the front end of the side part to about 45 degrees angle. The most narrow part of the gluing surface shouldn't be less than 2 centimeters. The side part of the mast needs to be about 4.2 centimeters. I mark out the part that I don't need. I strengthen the joints with some glass fiber. Here I use a bit thickened epoxy to wet out the glass fiber, but still fill the joint between the two pieces I want to join. The glass fiber retains the epoxy from the joint, so when I put some pressure on it, it won't be a dry fit. Now I'll put them together.
To secure them in place, I use clamps and masking tape.
I do the same for the other side of the mast. After a day's curing, I can remove the clamps and proceed. The mast base I make solid. I wet both sides and also the glass fiber to make sure that there is an epoxy layer in between the joint and I don't get any dry fit. In the rope channel, I don't want to have any sharp edges of glass fiber laminate pointing out, so I make sure to remove everything carefully to make a smooth surface. I also use a sander to remove some of it. I make sure that the channel is smooth by applying some epoxy in several layers. The joint between the two mast parts I'm going to keep together with the aluminium tubing. This will become the front end of the mast. To keep two angled pieces together, I use screws to hold them in place while curing, and afterward I can remove the screws. I cut out the slot in the mast to be able to hoist the sail. To make it possible to hoist the sail, it's very important that the lining is smooth, and thus I prepare it with 2 or 3 layers of epoxy and also a couple of layers of polyurethane varnish.